Romantic horror story, 7 Vows with the Ghost Bride. Episode 2. Ritwik stared at his hand for a few moments. Emrinalini hadn't actually touched it. So how had she known that his hand was as cold as ice? Shaking his head, he tried to convince himself. Maybe she just guessed. The accident had probably left his mind unsettled. Emrinalini walked ahead and said softly, "Come with me. A room has already been prepared for you." Prepared? Ritwik looked at her in surprise. "Did you know I was coming?" She glanced at him with a gentle smile. Sometimes, people wait for certain guests even before they arrive. Ritwik chose not to ask anything more. As they walked through the palace's long corridor, he carefully observed his surroundings. Every portrait on the walls belonged to the same noble family. The landlord, his wife, their children. Then his footsteps suddenly came to a halt. One portrait showed a young woman who looked exactly like Emrinalini. The same eyes, the same smile, the same face. Only this time she was dressed in a deep red Banarasi bridal sari. Written beneath the portrait in golden letters were the words, "Lady Emrinalini Devi." Ritwik looked at the painting. "Is this your portrait?" Emrinalini slowly turned her eyes toward it. Then in a calm voice she replied, "It's very old." "How old?" She didn't answer. Instead, she said quietly, "You shouldn't ask the age of old portraits. They get hurt." Ritwik couldn't help smiling. "Do you always answer like that?" She smiled back. "And do you always ask so many questions?" They both laughed together. For the first time, two complete strangers began to feel strangely comfortable with each other. The guest room was enormous. A spotless white bedsheet covered the bed. On a nearby table lay a clean towel, along with a traditional dhoti and kurta. Ritwik looked puzzled. "Whose clothes are these?" "They're yours from today." "But every guest deserves to be welcomed." After changing into the dry clothes, Ritwik came downstairs. The large dining table was filled with steaming dishes. Rice, lentils, poppy seed potatoes, fish curry, and sweet rice pudding. He stared in amazement. "You cooked all this by yourself?" Emrinalini nodded. "It's been a long time since anyone came here. So I ended up making a little too much." The moment Ritwik tasted the pudding, his face lit up. "This is incredible." Emrinalini remained silent, simply watching him eat. He smiled. "Why aren't you eating? You should eat first." "No, I don't like eating alone." She looked at him for a long moment. Then she whispered, "It's been so many years. No one has ever said that to me." Smiling warmly, Ritwik pushed a bowl toward her. "Then let today be the first." Emrinalini accepted the bowl. But Ritwik noticed something strange. She only stirred the pudding with her spoon. She never took a single bite. After dinner, they stepped onto the palace balcony. The rain had almost stopped. Fireflies drifted through the darkness. The fresh scent of wet earth filled the air. Ritwik broke the silence. "You know, I've had a dream ever since I was a child." "What kind of dream?" "To buy an old mansion like this someday. To leave the noise of the city behind and live somewhere peaceful." Emrinalini smiled faintly. "Human dreams are strange." "Why?" "Because people always long for what they don't have." Ritwik looked at her. "What do you wish for?" The question silenced her. After a long pause, she whispered, "A morning." Ritwik frowned. "A morning?" "Yes. A morning that no one can ever take away from me." He didn't understand what she meant. Yet somehow, He felt an unbearable sadness hidden within those words. Softly he said, "If you ever feel like talking, you can tell me." Emrinalini looked into his eyes. Tears shimmered there, but she was still smiling. "You want to share my sorrow already?" Ritwik smiled. "That's what friends are for." She slowly shook her head. "Are we only friends?" The question caught him completely off guard. For several silent moments, they simply looked into each other's eyes. Then Ritwik smiled gently. "I don't know, but the moment I saw you tonight, it felt as though we'd already met somewhere, long ago." Emrinalini slowly stepped closer. Her voice became softer than ever. "Perhaps some relationships don't begin in this lifetime. Only their ending does." Something stirred deep inside Ritwik's heart. At that very moment, the palace's enormous grandfather clock began to chime. Dong, dong, dong. 12 o'clock. In an instant, an icy wind swept through the palace. Every chandelier flickered wildly. Then, from somewhere deep inside the mansion, a woman's heartbreaking sob echoed through the darkness. Ritwik turned around in shock. "Did you hear that?" The smile had vanished from Emrinalini's face. Almost in a whisper, she said, "Don't stay outside any longer. The deeper the night grows, the more this house remembers." With those words, she hurried toward the dark corridor. "Emrinalini, wait." Ritwik called after her, but she never looked back. As she reached the end of the corridor, she simply faded into the mist. Ritwik stood there frozen. For the very first time, a terrifying question entered his mind. Was she truly an ordinary woman? Or was she an unfinished story, still trapped within the darkness of this haunted palace? To be continued.